A family sedan just hit 211 miles per hour on the Monza straight, faster than the Formula One cars racing that same weekend. Then it disappeared forever. This is the story of the car that raced once and broke motorsport. A sleek red sedan tears down the Monza straight at over 200 miles per hour. The sound is unmistakable. That high-pitched scream belongs to a Formula One car, but this is no open-wheel racer. It's a four-door family sedan, an Alfa Romeo 164. Under that ordinary body sits a beating heart that shouldn't exist. A 3.5-liter V10 engine pulled straight from Grand Prix racing. This is the Alfa Romeo 164 ProCar, a machine that was supposed to change motorsport forever. Instead, it raced exactly once, then disappeared into history. In the mid-1980s, two men had a wild idea. Bernie Ecclestone, the powerful Formula One promoter, and Max Mosley, an FIA official and former racing boss, wanted to create something spectacular. They called it the FIA Production Car Championship. The nickname was ProCar. The concept was revolutionary. Take ordinary production cars that regular people drive every day. Strip out everything inside. Build a Formula One chassis underneath. Drop in a Grand Prix engine. Keep the outside looking completely stock. The name ProCar wasn't new. Back in 1979 and 1980, a special series let Formula One drivers race identical BMW M1 sports cars as support events during Grand Prix weekends. That was exciting. But this new ProCar idea from 1987 was far more ambitious. Instead of identical cars, each manufacturer could build their own racer based on one of their showroom models. The only requirement was that the production car had to be mass-produced, at least 25,000 units per year. Under that familiar shell, teams could go absolutely wild with Formula One technology. The rules for Formula S, as it was officially called, walked a fascinating line. The body panels had to match the production car's shape almost perfectly. The silhouette from the side should look identical to the street version. No massive aero kits, no crazy extensions. Even the rear wing had to be tiny and couldn't stick out past the stock bumper line. Inside, the dashboard needed to be the standard production dash. This maintained that ordinary appearance. A ProCar would truly fool your eyes. You'd think you were looking at a normal family sedan rolling through the paddock. But underneath that innocent disguise, pure racing hardware lurked. A lightweight chassis, massive racing slick tires, and most important, a Formula One engine. The new Grand Prix rules for 1989 mandated 3.5-liter naturally aspirated engines. The turbo era was ending. These same power plants would form the beating heart of every ProCar machine. Bernie Ecclestone and Max Mosley imagined short, intense sprint races. Maybe one driver per car. Perhaps a ban on external sponsorship. Only the manufacturer's name on the bodywork. These ProCar events could happen during Grand Prix weekends as Friday or Saturday support races, giving fans an extra show. The vision was clear. A massive battle between cars that looked like something your neighbor might drive, but with Formula One engines howling under the hood. It was bold. It was expensive. It was technically challenging. For this series to work, multiple major manufacturers needed to commit, and that's where reality hit hard. Only one manufacturer stepped up, Alfa Romeo. For Alfa Romeo, the timing was strange but perfect. This Italian brand was soaked in racing history. Alfa had won the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950 with driver Nino Farina at the wheel of an Alfetta. They won again in 1951 with Juan Manuel Fangio. Through decades of competition, from sports cars to touring cars, Alfa Romeo built a reputation on speed and style. But by the 1980s, everything was changing. The company struggled financially. In late 1986, the Fiat Group took over. Under Fiat ownership, Alfa's future in top-tier motorsport became uncertain. Fiat already owned Ferrari, a direct Formula One competitor. The new management made a quick decision. Alfa Romeo would not return to Formula One as a factory team. Each brand in the Fiat family needed its own niche. Ferrari would handle Formula One, Alfa Romeo would focus on touring car racing. No official overlap between them. Despite stepping back from Grand Prix racing, Alfa Romeo still had serious technical ambitions. In the early 1980s, Alfa had supplied V8 turbo engines to Formula One teams. Alfa engineers were already developing a next-generation engine for the new 3.5-liter naturally aspirated rules starting in 1989. This engine project carried the internal code TIPO 1035. The numbers told the story: 10 for 10 cylinders, 35 for 3.5 liters. Alfa chose a V10 configuration. This was novel, groundbreaking. In 1987, when Alfa was working on it, no other Formula One manufacturer had a V10 on track yet. Honda and Renault would also develop V10 designs for 1989, but Alfa's project was arguably the pioneer exploring this 10-cylinder format. The V10 was seen as the ideal middle ground. More cylinders than a V8 for higher revving power, but more compact and fuel-efficient than a bulky V12. Alfa's engine chief, Giuseppe Pino D'Agostino, believed a 72-degree V10 could outperform a V8 without the extra weight of a V12. By mid-1987, Alfa Romeo's new 3.5-liter V10 was coming to life. On July 1, 1987, the Tipo 1035 engine roared on the dyno for the first time. Engineers were cautious. This was uncharted territory. Some feared the unusual vibrations a V10 might produce, but the tests went beautifully. Nothing bad happened. They kept increasing the power. 3 hours later, it was running at full revs. The prototype engine exceeded 580 horsepower in early tune. Later development pushed it to around 620 horsepower at a screaming 13,000 revolutions per minute. It featured state-of-the-art construction: aluminum block, dual overhead cams with 4 valves per cylinder, electronic fuel injection. This was a Formula One engine in every sense, except now Alfa Romeo had nowhere to race it. The reason was dramatic. Alfa had planned to supply this V10 to the Ligier Formula One team. But shortly before the 1987 season, Ligier's lead driver, René Arnoux, publicly criticized Alfa's older turbo engine on television. He called it underwhelming. Alfa's management, now under Fiat's influence, seized the moment. Offended by Arnoux's comments, Alfa canceled the Ligier engine contract immediately. They cited a breach of trust. In truth, Fiat had never been enthusiastic about Alfa supporting another Formula One team that might compete with Ferrari. Arnoux's outburst provided a convenient excuse to pull the plug. With that, Alfa Romeo was effectively out of Formula One after 1987, but they still had this brand new V10 engine project nearing completion. Fiat's top brass, particularly the motorsport enthusiast Vittorio Guidella, didn't want to waste the investment. Guidella directed Alfa's engineers to continue developing the V10 anyway. "Go ahead with it," he instructed, "and then we will see how to use it." When Bernie Ecclestone came knocking with the ProCar silhouette racer idea in mid-1987, Alfa Romeo was uniquely positioned. Here was the perfect outlet for their high-tech engine that suddenly had no championship. Alfa's leadership also saw ProCar as a way to uphold the brand's racing image without interfering with Ferrari and Formula One. As Vittorio Guidella said, Alfa's image is linked to racing. Sportiness is the main characteristic of the marque. So, in summer 1987, Alfa Romeo became an enthusiastic early supporter of the ProCar series. They officially backed Formula S and began working to build a prototype that could serve as a performance benchmark for the new championship. Alfa wanted to be first out of the gate. Now came the daunting task. Build a car that looked like their latest production sedan but could perform like a Formula One racer. The chosen model was the Alfa Romeo 164. A 4-door executive saloon introduced in 1987. The 164 was Alfa's new flagship family car, stylish and aerodynamic. Designed by Pininfarina. Front-wheel drive in road-going form. An unlikely candidate for a race car at first glance, but it met the ProCar criteria of high production volume, tens of thousands produced, and its sleek shape would make a convincing silhouette to hide engineering magic underneath. Alfa Romeo's racing department, Alfa Corse, didn't work alone. They partnered with Brabham, a famous Formula One constructor. This made perfect sense. Brabham had history with Alfa. They had run Alfa Romeo engines in Formula One in the late 1970s, and Bernie Ecclestone owned Brabham at the time. Ecclestone was looking to sell the Brabham team in 1987 as he moved into larger roles in Formula One management. There were even talks of Alfa Romeo buying the Brabham team outright as part of the ProCar project. Whether or not an actual sale happened, Brabham became the development arm for Alfa's ProCar effort. The prototype was constructed at Brabham's facility in the United Kingdom. It received an internal Brabham project code, BT57. Brabham's Formula One cars had codes like BT55 and BT56 in those years, so BT57 was a continuation. This underscored that the Alfa 164 ProCar was built to Formula One standards. Leading the design was John Baldwin, a Brabham engineer formerly of Lotus. He set out to create a true racing machine under the Alfa 164's skin. The approach used the kind of chassis construction found in contemporary Formula One or sports prototype cars. Instead of modifying a production car, they built an entirely new chassis. The 164 ProCar's core was a lightweight carbon fiber monocoque tub, essentially a central shell or cockpit made of advanced composite material. This provided stiffness and safety like a Formula One car's chassis. Attached to this were front and rear subframes carrying racing suspension and the engine and gearbox at the rear. The suspension used double wishbones front and rear with coil springs, pure race car hardware. Nothing like the road sedan's setup. The brakes were four-wheel ventilated discs, steering was quick ratio rack, and pinion, all bespoke for high performance. To meet the silhouette rule, a standard Alfa 164 body was used for the outer shell. Alfa sent an actual production 164 body shell to Brabham's workshop in Chessington, England. The racing chassis was built to fit inside it. Mounting points aligned with the external panels. The result was striking. Externally, the ProCar looked incredibly stock. Same overall length, same shape, even four doors outlined on the side. The engineers kept the silhouette practically identical to the road car. Only eagle-eyed observers could spot clues. The wheels were much larger and wider than factory 164 wheels, filling up flared wheel arches. The car sat much lower to the ground. A modest rear wing perched on the trunk lid, as the rules allowed. Otherwise, it looked like a showroom sedan, wearing Alfa's iconic red paint and the traditional Alfa Romeo grille and badging on the nose. Inside, the builders maintained the illusion. The interior retained elements of the normal car to satisfy regulations. The dashboard was the standard Alfa 164 dashboard, including the usual instrument cluster and layout you'd find in a family sedan. There were two seats in the front. While a typical Formula One car is a single-seater, the ProCar was technically a two-seater, driver and passenger side. The extra seat was mostly symbolic. In practice, the car would only be driven by one person in competition, but it fulfilled the idea of being based on a four-passenger car. In reality, the rear half of the interior was taken up by the powertrain and mechanical components. No back seats existed. Where an ordinary Alfa 164 has a rear bench for passengers, the ProCar had a mid-mounted engine and gearbox occupying that space. The powertrain was the crown jewel. Mounted longitudinally just behind the front seats sat Alfa Romeo's new 3.5-liter V10 engine, the Tipo 1035. This engine was the Deflin Zero, also Jess 10. The entire reason the project existed. A state-of-the-art Formula One spec power plant looking for a home. In the ProCar installation, the V10 was tuned to produce around 600 horsepower. Specifically about 605 horsepower at 12,100 revolutions per minute according to Alfa's figures. That's roughly 3 times the horsepower of a normal road-going Alfa 164 of the late 1980s. And it achieved this with revs over 12,000, meaning it would scream with a ferocious high note, very unlike any street car. The engine had a 72-degree cylinder bank angle. Fuel injection. It ran on racing gasoline, essentially identical to a Formula One engine design of that era. It also holds a special place in Alfa history as the only V10 engine Alfa Romeo ever built for a car. Alfa Romeo had built famous twin-cam 4s, inline 6s, V6s, even V8s for racing, but never before and never since a 10-cylinder. This one-off engine was a technical marvel. power fed to the rear wheels via a racing transmission, a Hewland 6-speed manual gearbox, a proven supplier for race car gearboxes. Hewland engineered many Formula One and sports car transaxles. In the ProCar, the gearbox mounted at the back, integrated with the rear axle, much like a Formula One car's transaxle. All mechanical elements were chosen for performance and lightweight. The entire car weighed only about 750 kilograms. That's incredibly light. Roughly the weight of a Formula One car of the day, which by regulation was around 500 to 600 kilograms without fuel, plus perhaps a bit extra for the sedan bodywork. Compared to a normal Alfa 164 road car, which weighed around 1,300 to 1,400 kilograms, the ProCar was a featherweight. The use of carbon fiber, aluminum, and composite materials for the chassis and body parts kept weight down. Stripping out unnecessary comforts helped too. The chassis was made of carbon fiber and also used aluminum and Nomex honeycomb sections, similar to how Formula One monocoques were constructed for strength and low weight. The body panels were crafted in lightweight materials, a mix of carbon fiber, Kevlar, and Nomex in a 3-part construction. This car was a purebred race car cleverly dressed up in a family sedan's clothing. With over 600 horsepower and only 750 kilograms to move, the performance estimates were astonishing. It was theoretically capable of 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, which is 0 to 62 miles per hour, in just over 2 seconds. On par with, or better than, the quickest supercars and Formula One cars even by today's standards. Its projected top speed was around 340 kilometers per hour. That's 211 miles per hour. Because the Alfa 164's body shape was relatively aerodynamic and had smaller wings, meaning less drag, than a contemporary Formula One car. The ProCar potentially could go faster at the top end than a Formula One car of 1988. Some sources noted it might hit about 217 miles per hour in ideal conditions, though Alfa officially quoted around 211 miles per hour as the maximum. For comparison, actual Formula One cars in 1988, running big wings for downforce, would top out a bit over 190 to 200 miles per hour on a long straight. So this red Alfa sedan could theoretically outrun a Grand Prix car in a straight line, even if the Formula One car would be quicker around corners. The notion of a 4-door saloon capable of such speeds was mind-bending. By early 1988, the Alfa Romeo 164 ProCar was built and undergoing testing. It was a somewhat secret project, a small team working in the background while the motorsport world focused on other championships. As the prototype came together, Alfa Romeo and Brabham kept tweaking and refining it. They prepared not only for racing but also for a planned public debut to show everyone what they had accomplished. The big moment came in September 1988 at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. The new ProCar series still hadn't officially gotten off the ground. In fact, it was already in trouble. Alfa Romeo decided to show off their creation in a public demonstration on home turf. The Italian Grand Prix weekend drew tens of thousands of passionate tifosi, Italian racing fans. Alfa's plan was to run the 164 ProCar on the track to drum up excitement and perhaps convince other manufacturers to join the proposed series. To drive the car, Alfa Romeo brought in Riccardo Patrese, a top Italian Formula One driver. Patrese was a natural choice. He was a race winner in Formula One. At that time, he was driving for Williams in the Grand Prix that same weekend. The story goes that on Friday of the Grand Prix, right after he finished a qualifying session in his Williams Formula One car, Patrese jumped into the Alfa 164 ProCar for its demo run. Talk about switching gears. From a cutting-edge open-wheel single-seater to what looked like a regular sedan, albeit one with similar performance. As Patrese took the ProCar onto Monza's legendary track, the crowd initially saw a red 4-door Alfa, something familiar and strange at the same time on a circuit normally occupied by low-slung race cars. But when he accelerated down the main straight, the sound gave it all away. The 164 ProCar emitted a banshee shriek. The high pitch of a V10 engine revving past 12,000 revolutions per minute echoed off the grandstands. This was a sound no one in the audience had heard from a closed-roof car. It was essentially a Formula One sound coming from a sedan shape. A new sound in motor racing. Many in the grandstands must have been astonished and delighted. Here was an Alfa Romeo making a Formula One-like howl and achieving incredible speed. Patrese pushed the car on the straight to show its potential. By the end of the long front straight, just before braking for the first chicane, the ProCar had reportedly touched somewhere around 330 kilometers per 3 hour. That's 205 miles per hour. Different accounts vary slightly on the exact figure, but it clearly broke the 200 miles per hour barrier during the demo. This was faster on that straight than the Formula One cars of the day. An impressive feat. The ProCar did exactly what it was meant to do. Prove that a silhouette racer could deliver Formula One level performance. However, the demonstration was somewhat limited. Patrese had been instructed to take it easy in the corners for safety reasons. The car was running on older specification Michelin racing slicks that might not have been fresh or perfectly suited. With no chance to do extensive setup, there were concerns about pushing too hard. So, Patrese didn't fling the sedan into Monza's curves the way he would with a Formula One car. Aside from the high-speed blast down the straight, he drove conservatively. Spectators saw the 164 ProCar thunder in a straight line, but then brake early and carefully. Navigate the chicanes and turns. This contrast may have made the car appear less dramatic in overall lap pace than it truly was capable of. Reports on the crowd's reaction differ. According to one account, the Tifosi were amazed by the sight and especially the sound of an Alfa doing over 320 kilometers per hour on home soil. It was, after all, an Alfa Romeo in full racing red livery, rekindling memories of the marque's glorious past. And it was outpacing modern Formula One cars in a straight line, a point of pride. On the other hand, another account notes that because the car wasn't pushed to its limits in the curves, it might have looked slow to some observers. The truth was probably somewhere in between. There was certainly excitement and curiosity in seeing it run, but the demo was too brief and restrained to fully showcase the car's potential on a complete lap. Crucially, no other ProCar prototypes were present. This was a solo appearance. The 164. ProCar had no competitors to race with on track. It was a glimpse of what might have been. One lone futuristic sedan racing around Monza, destined to race others of its kind, if those others ever existed. By the time the Alfa 164 ProCar made its debut at Monza in late 1988, the grand vision for a ProCar championship was already crumbling. Behind the scenes, the series was essentially doomed even before that public run. Bernie Ecclestone and Max Mosley's efforts to get multiple manufacturers on board had not succeeded. Alfa Romeo had eagerly built a car, but where were the rivals? Major automakers like BMW, Mercedes, Ford, and Jaguar all showed a marked lack of interest in committing to the ProCar idea. There were several reasons for this hesitation. Building a silhouette racer was nearly as involved as building a Formula One or Group C prototype car. Manufacturers would have to invest in designing a bespoke chassis and adapting or creating a Formula One grade engine. Few were prepared to spend that money for what was essentially a support series. Most manufacturers didn't want to invest the money needed for ProCar. That's why only one car was built. By the late 1980s, many manufacturers had their motorsport budgets allocated elsewhere. Companies like Mercedes and BMW were focusing on touring car championships like DTM or other ventures. Japanese makers were into sports prototype racing and rally. They might have seen ProCar as an unnecessary new venture. Even within the Fiat group, while Alfa was doing ProCar, Ferrari certainly wasn't going to build a silhouette car. They were busy in Formula One. Lancia, another Fiat brand, was focused on rally and sports cars. Getting everyone to join a brand new series was a hard sell. Manufacturers likely questioned what the marketing benefit would be of winning a race with a pseudo-production car that in reality had little in common with what they sold. Traditional touring car, racing or rallying provided more direct links to their road models. ProCar, while spectacular, might have confused that message. The cars looked stock but were nothing like stock under the skin. Running these cars would require specialized support crews and potentially well-known drivers. If they wanted Formula One stars to drive them on Grand Prix weekends, that added another layer of scheduling complexity. The series outline was perhaps not fully developed in terms of format and governance. This made companies wary. As 1988 progressed, the anticipated roster of entrants never materialized. Bernie Ecclestone found a willing collaborator in Alfa Romeo for ProCar, but other manufacturers steered clear. By fall 1988, the FIA officially canceled the ProCar championship plans due to the low number of committed entries. You can't have a championship with only one make of car. The ProCar series died before it even began. A victim of too few believers, Alfa Romeo was left holding a beautiful but orphaned creation. The 164 ProCar instantly went from being the potential star of a new race series to a technological dead end. After the Monza demonstration, there were no more opportunities for it to race in anger. The car had proven its performance, but now it had no one to race against. Left with no adversaries and no championship, that Monza outing would be the last time the public could hear the 164 ProCar sing. After that, the car was essentially mothballed. The 164 ProCar was a 200 miles per hour plus rocket with nowhere to go. By the time it hit the track in front of spectators, plans for what was properly known as the FIA Production Car Championship were dead in the water. The ProCar project was a brilliant but quixotic effort. A 200 miles per hour plus dead end. The project had demonstrated what it set out to, that a Formula One-powered silhouette car could work. Yet it failed to change the course of motorsport as intended. For Alfa Romeo, there was a brief consideration of what next for their V10 engine and racing aspirations. In the late 1980s, Alfa also toyed with entering the World Sports Prototype Championship, also known as Group C endurance racing, using the same 3.5-liter engine concept. They even developed a Group C chassis in 1988 and 1989 and initially planned to use the Alfa V10 in it. However, that too fell apart. Fiat higher-ups later ordered that project to switch to a Ferrari V12 engine, keeping things in the family, and ultimately scrapped the whole Group C effort by 1990. It seemed the Alfa V10 was destined never to race anywhere. Not in Formula One, not in ProCar, not in Group C. The engine became a fascinating footnote. An advanced piece of engineering that simply had no championship to compete in. By 1989, Alfa Romeo refocused on more traditional touring car racing. They found great success in the early 1990s with the Alfa 155 in touring car and DTM competition, using much more conventional racing machines. The ProCar adventure was over. It slid into obscurity for many years, known only to insiders and enthusiasts. Although the Alfa 164 ProCar never turned a wheel in actual competition, it secured a special place in automotive lore. Over time, as enthusiasts and historians looked back, this prototype earned a reputation as one of motorsport's greatest what-if stories, a best-kept secret and a genuine could-have-been. It represents an era when an automaker dared to build something outrageously ambitious just to see how far the rules could be pushed. The single 164 ProCar that was built survived intact. Rather than being lost or scrapped, it became part of Alfa Romeo's historical collection. By late 1988, with no series forthcoming, the car was put on a fast track to its resting place in the Alfa Romeo Museum, known as the Museo Storico Alfa Romeo, located in Arese, just outside Milan. There it remained, a curious exhibit. A bright red sedan that on closer inspection revealed its air intakes, roll cage, and other racing clues. For many years it wasn't widely shown to the public. But Alfa certainly kept it safe as a symbol of their technical prowess. As decades passed, interest in these obscure racing prototypes grew. Alfa Romeo itself began to proudly display the 164 ProCar at special events as part of its heritage. In 2010, during Alfa Romeo's 100th anniversary celebrations, the company brought the 164 ProCar out to the Goodwood Festival of Speed in England. A famed event for historic racing cars. There, among dozens of classic Alfas, this unique machine was a star attraction in the Cathedral paddock area. It bore special decals noting Alfa's centenary. People could finally see it up close, and even hear it run again. The Goodwood attendance of the ProCar in 2010 confirmed what it was. A crowd-drawing piece of Alfa lore, alongside other legends like the 1930s Alfetta Grand Prix cars and the championship-winning touring cars. The festival's program highlighted the 164 ProCar as the car which features the world's first ever 10-cylinder engine. A bit of exaggeration, perhaps, but underscoring how unusual that V10 was in Alfa's lineage. Since then, the 164 ProCar has made occasional appearances. Videos and recordings of its engine notes circulate among enthusiasts. It's often cited in lists of crazy prototype cars or amazing one-off projects. What once might have seemed like a forgotten folly is now celebrated as an example of Alfa Romeo's passion and ingenuity. Technically, the 164 ProCar also has an important legacy. It was the harbinger of the V10 era. When it roared at Monza in 1988, that was the first public demonstration of a modern V10 racing engine. Just a year later, in 1989, multiple Formula One teams showed up with V10 engines. Honda powered the dominant McLaren with a V10. Renault introduced a V10 with the Williams team. Others followed. The V10 became the engine configuration of the 1990s in Formula One, winning many championships. Had Alfa Romeo stayed in Formula One as an engine supplier, their V10 might have entered the grid in 1989 and added to that story. Instead, it found life only in the ProCar prototype. Still, as an engineering exercise, it proved Alfa's engineers could design a power unit on par with the best in the world. Enthusiasts sometimes wonder what might have happened if the ProCar series had taken off. Would we have seen rival cars like a Ferrari 328 ProCar, a BMW M5 ProCar, or a Ford Sierra ProCar lining up to fight the Alfa? How might racing history have been different if in 1989 and 1990 fans were treated to 2 races each weekend, one with Formula One cars and one with near Formula One powered sedans? It's interesting to imagine. But in reality, the idea may have been too radical and costly for its era. Motorsport has many such almost stories, where a concept is tested but not adopted. The Alfa 164 ProCar stands as a tangible embodiment of one such story. You can actually see and touch the what-if car that resulted from it. The Alfa Romeo 164 ProCar remains a monument to ambition and innovation, a machine that pushed the boundaries of what a production car could be. A Formula One engine hidden in a family sedan's body. A 200 miles per hour dream that never got its chance to compete. But even in failure, it succeeded in showing the world what was possible when creativity met engineering excellence. The 164 ProCar never won a race. It never even started one. But it won something, perhaps more valuable. A permanent place in the hearts of those who appreciate the wild, the unconventional, and the daring in motorsport history.